Welcome to another edition of the Griffin's Coaches Show. I am Sport Information Director Ben Mazzara, and I'm joined today by Head Track and Field Coach Chris Buckler. Coach, how you doing?
Good. Yourself?
Good. We got a lot to get through today, but first we'll just talk about this past weekend. You competed at the SLIAC Invite. Women finished in third with 100 now probably 20 points because of Jayla Jones. That is a school record. And the men finished in fourth. A lot of PRs set, a lot of all-time records set again. Your thoughts on how the team performed at the SLIAC Invite?
Yeah, I think first of all, kind of a shout out to Principia College. They did an amazing job putting on that meet. In my third year, that was definitely the best SLIAC meet, indoor or outdoor, that I think I've ever seen. The competition was great, and it was across the board. It wasn't just a couple great athletes, and I think we performed kind of like we were hoping to perform. Sometimes you get that nervousness, and I know some of our kids. They had some restless nights going into it because the expectations are there. For the most part, I would say the entire team performed admirably. We talked last time about multiple events and some of those things. I think when we looked at it, our average kid scored 13.5 points. Fantastic. To have two conference individual champs, and then the 4x2 individual champ or relay champ. I was excited. I think what that does is, like I talk to our kids, it just raises the bar a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And we talk all the time about, how do we continue to raise our bar individually, not worry about everybody else. I think we're doing that. And with those higher expectations, it becomes a little bit harder work. And I think our kids are starting to get that. We're just still so young that hopefully as we mature and grow, we'll see those numbers continue to increase.
And when I was talking to Coach Madison and Emily Bay over here before we got this going, they were saying that comparing the rosters to what Greenville was doing, they finished like 230, 40 points, but that was a roster of, say, 30. They had people 30 competing. We had 9, and we finished 120 points. So overall, looking at that and getting their side of it, I couldn't be more excited about the future of this program to do 9 and have 120, and think if we expand our roster more, we could be in the top 2, maybe win the SLIAC Invite next year. So this is an exciting time for you, is what I'm saying. So we always talked about hitting the stride as the years progressed. You didn't want them to hit it too early, and right around this time you want to start seeing some progress. On Friday and Saturday, with everything that happened and all the success you guys had, is that what you expected finally out of this group, that everything started to come together?
Yeah, I think I did, and I think what the nice thing was, our freshmen and sophomores, I can start to see that gelling as a team. And we had one individual that pulled up a little bit, got injured, and we had someone step right up. And I think that's the important thing when you're talking about a sport that is a team sport, but it's kind of an individual sport, kind of built into the model. Really, everybody's got to do their job. But you also got to be able to step up when someone else, maybe can't do their job. And we had that from everybody. And I was excited. And, now the kind of the training changes a little bit as we go to outdoor season and so forth. But, I'm very excited. I think that our kids are starting to buy in more. And we told them when we first got here, this is going to be a 4 to 5 year process to get to where we want to be as a successful program where, those titles are just something that's taken care of. And we're continuing to work to what our ultimate goals are. And
one of those goals, I'm assuming, is always improving USTFCCCA rankings. And that came out yesterday, I believe.
Yes.
And the women jumped up 7 spots to number 28, highest in school history, and above the 2 finishers in the SLIAC Invite, which was Webster and Greenville, I believe. So overall, what does that do for the program to be continually moving up in the rankings? And what does it say about the women's team that they're now 28th overall in the regional rankings?
We talked about a little bit this morning in practice, and it's getting our kids to understand that yes, we're starting to get a little bit more success and so forth, but we cannot settle for where we're at. Mm-hmm. Until, to be honest, we're number 1. Yeah. We haven't really accomplished what we're trying to accomplish, and yes, it's satisfying. And the nice thing about those national polls, it really takes into account the talent on your roster, not necessarily the numbers. We're not at what I would call a traditional Division III school. We don't have 7 or 8 full-time coaches where we can have 100 on a roster. Mm-hmm. We keep our roster relatively small so that way our kids get individualized attention. Obviously if we have more full-time coaches, our roster would be substantially larger, and the conference would be a second thing that we wouldn't even worry about. So when you look at those national polls, we're talking about the talent level of each individual kid. And like I said, with averaging about 13.5 points per kid, that really comes kind of to the fruition when we talk about those national polls. And our multis are ranked number 12 in the nation. So we're really excited because they're all young. We've got 2 of those that this is their first year doing the multi. So I know that that's going to continue to go up as well.
And that all fantastic things to hear. And now here we go to the Polar Bear Invite, another fun name of track and field. Someday I'll figure out how they come up with these fun names. But what do we want to see this weekend? I know I was talking again to Coach Madison that Sierra Moore is pretty close to the NCAA National Championship mark that will happen next Friday. So what do we need to see out of this group going to the Polar Bear Invite? What kind of competition are we seeing? Are you taking everybody, or just a limited amount that gets them closer to the NCAA National Championships?
Yeah, first on your Polar Bear, part of it's their mascots, the Polar Bear.
Okay.
So that's kind of where that comes from. Now it's in northern Ohio, so it's really cold up there. So the big difference, I think we talked about it last week, is when you're talking about conference meets, about scoring points, and so you get to these meets, it's not about the points. It's about those individual performances. So like, for example, Sierra Moore is only doing the shot. She won't compete in the weight. And we know that she needs to get basically 13.5 meters to have a shot at the national meet. And so we're really been gearing up practice this week, and it's hard when you have a freshman coming in. You don't know exactly how they're going to respond to that training when it's their first year. So adjustments, we'll kind of learn that as she grows and develops. But that's kind of the point. We've been working at practice this morning even, hey, here's the mark you got to hit. And our kids, we've kind of talked about, it's about going for broke this week. At the end of the day, when this meet's over, if you haven't gone to nationals, we're starting outdoor season. So, for example, like a Jacob Dixon who put in 7,200 meters last week at the conference, and those were a faster pace than maybe a slow race, he's going to gear up for the 800. He's going to have one race. Some of them are not going to necessarily know what they're doing when they only have one event. And it's because we're trying to go for broke and get a high number and give ourselves at least a chance to either for Jacob, maybe break the school record, or for Sierra's case, hey, let's try to get to the national mark or all region. We have the toughest region in Division III, and part of that's the Wisconsin schools. I mean, we all understand that they've got 18 to 20,000 enrollment, they've got in-state tuition. To get into all region, which is top 8, Sierra actually has to throw a national mark to get to the national championship. So it's a hard thing to kind of get that. If she was in the South region, she would be number 1 in the region by over 2 meters. And so it's just the difference of how the schools line up and so forth. So, we've got our multis going again on Friday, and then Mackenzie Daniel will be throwing the weight, and only our spring break group is going, because we'll head right to Gulf Shores from that meet on Saturday.
And that'll be much better weather than it's already here. It's rainy and cold. So, Coach, thanks for coming on today. The team will be back in action this Friday at the Polar Bear Invite. You can follow a full recap of that on FontanGriffins.com. You can also follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages.